Okay, let's begin. I am Lanice Antoine Shelley, and I'll be your host through constructive, healing-based conversations designed to illuminate the adoptee, parents, and the adoption curious. We center the topics around community, mentorship, leadership, and healing, so you get a multi-dimensional view that is ultimately empowering. These are the voices who could not speak when they were young. Hey y'all, if you've seen me on Instagram, I'm in my summer glow phase and I am unapologetic about it. My hair is luscious. Fun fact, I didn't start properly treating and doing my own hair until I was a grown adult because like many Black adoptees, no one showed me how to do my own hair. And because I love you all so much, I'm going to share with you my hair secret. I'm always on the lookout for things you'd love and things that will enhance your well-being inside and out. We Unique Cosmetics sent me their Moisture Lock pomade and scalp and hair therapy oil from their Metamorphosis line, and it's so decadent, light, and nourishing, fam. This has become a hair routine staple. It has a soft lemongrass scent that people comment on when I walk by or when they're doing my hair because now I have boho locks. They also sent me a 15% discount link for you to try their products and hair tutorial service. And Unique Cosmetics is Black owned and operated by a mother and daughter duo dedicated to helping the adoptee community. Check out the link in the show notes. And this is for all ages, fam. So tell your friends. So come on, embark on a hair-loving journey with We Unique World. From interactive workshops to premium products, they're all about empowering you to embrace your unique hair journey. Because remember, all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Hello there, fam. How are you? I've got my feet more beneath me this week, which I'm thrilled about. I don't feel as if I'm knee-jerk reacting to life. I feel in front of it, co-creating with it. I already told you last week that I find Super Soul Sunday calming. In the same episode with Byron Katie, Byron also said, defense is the first act of war. The moment someone says or does something and you reactively get defensive, you are priming the situation for contention. But if you listen and don't assume that it's a spiritual attack, you may not only learn something new, but avoid unnecessary disagreements altogether, thus choosing your battles. I am bombarding you with cliches of late, but they're so good. Anywho, I bring this up because today we continue adoptee interviews with family members. Dr. Juliana Olson-Deans is back. She is a licensed professional counselor, mental health counselor, and national certified counselor who imparted great wisdom in episode 5, so go back and take a listen. She also co-founded the Interracial Adoptee Panel Series with me this past summer. Juliana is here with her husband, Derek. As I said before, these are the most challenging conversations to have, yet these conversations can change a life. I personally have experience with that. It's all in pursuit of stronger relationships and diffusing the tension within the subject of adoption, until one day you realize that you've harnessed the situation and no part of it causes you suffering. But it takes internal work and the courage to listen. I'm excited to hear how adoption has affected Juliana's longtime partner in greatness, Derek Deans.
So I would like to introduce my husband, Derek Deans, to everybody. We've been married for 17 years. So, yep.
All right.
And how long have we been together?
20 years. March, April timeframe will make 21 years.
21 years. So we've been together for a minute and we have one child together. Did you want to say anything else about like your relations to me or anything like that?
No, I'm ready to just jump in, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna have a hard time to not call you babe, and I have to call you Derek. So, I guess I think it's important for the audience to kind of understand your background and where you came from. You don't necessarily have to put the city, but can you just tell us a little bit about the demographics of your background? Like,
I grew up in a small town in Louisiana. Very, like I say, very small. Probably population wise, you're looking at probably about 90% black, um, 10% white. If it was somebody else there, you really didn't know it. I think one Hispanic family moved in the whole time I was there, and that's all I can remember. Um, just like I said, for the most part, it was all black. So that was what I knew. I
okay.
went to school. My school was pretty much probably about a 70-30 mix, black, white, just because of they started bringing kids from out of town into the town for the school. But that's pretty much it.
Okay. And then for me, it was predominantly black when I was in Haiti, and then I got adopted at the age of 8, 8.5. And then when I got adopted by my adoptive parents who are white, pretty much I would say 99.9% of my world was white. So the church that I went to, I can count on one hand how many other Black people who attended that church, and it was a church of 2,000 or more people there. And then the school I went to, in my graduating class of like 23, 24, in junior high, there was one other Black girl, Allison. And then one semester we had Stephen, who was a Black guy in ninth grade. But other than that, I was predominantly the only Black person in my school. So we had different backgrounds and definitely the polar opposite when it comes to the demographics based on race. So when did you find out I was adopted?
Well, we met in a college. Um, and when doing the introductions for the actual psychology class, you introduce yourself as being a Haitian adoptee. However, you did not mention that your parents were Caucasian at the time. And so later on, that was a surprise.
Okay. So what were your thoughts about meeting my parents for the first time? And do you mind kind of giving them a little background also how that went to meet them for the first time?
Well, after getting your address, I drove up and I saw a Caucasian male coming down the stairs. So I actually thought I had the wrong house and I left. Went down the street, checked the address again, came back. I said, oh, maybe it was just a neighbor, a friend, or whatever coming out. So at that point, I saw you and your sister in the garage or driveway area. And I said, okay, it's the right house. You took me upstairs to meet them. And you said, oh, here's my dad. And when you said, here's your dad, the Caucasian male, white male that I saw coming down the stairs before was the same guy. So that was a shock. And then you said your mom, or introduced me to your mom. So when I turn around, initially, I'm thinking, oh, daddy may have had jungle fever or something, you know. But when I turn around, I see this short Caucasian female that was like very, I don't want to say different, but she's very huggy, and I'm not a real huggy type person. So to come up and want to hug on me, and that was very different.
Yeah.
And that was, even at day one, to come up and hug on me, that was weird.
Well, thank you for dealing with that. I know that could have been seen by other people as traumatic, but after you got over the shock, you handled it very well. So, what were your feelings when you first were? Maybe I should say the second time you met them, since that was a shocker for the first time.
Um, I was still trying to get a somewhat of an understanding and get I guess a better understanding of what was going on, um, why did this family have two black daughters? Because where I grew up, adoption wasn't new. However, to see a white family with black kids, that was new. That was pretty shocking. So I was still trying to process that and get an understanding. And at the same time, growing up in the South, you were told don't bring the white girls home, or don't bring black guys home, or whatever the case may be. But now I'm in a house where the parents are white, the daughter's black, and I'm like, how does this work? And it took a while to get used to it. And even now, I still have some, I don't say misgivings, but sometimes I struggle with dealing with it and some of the stuff that's said and the way it's presented. So it's 20 years later, it's still something that I have to work with.
Mm. What specific event sticks out in your mind that made you realize that some of the things that either you're going through or that we're going through is an interracial adoption issue and not just a family issue?
Well, I know that when we first met, like you had your hair straight, and but there would be times where your hair just wasn't what I was accustomed to as far as being taken care of. Actually, I grew up around pretty much all black, so they were taught at a young age how to take care of their hair. So there were times I'm like, what is she doing with her hair? That was a little different. And then when you first came to Louisiana before moving to Florida, you made it a point to say that this had been the most black people you had ever been around. And it was just odd to say that you had been in the United States as long as you had, and to still feel like my small town as I came from, to be that was a lot of black people to you. To me, that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was it a couple of years later. I'm not sure. No, we weren't married yet at the time. I came up for Thanksgiving, I believe, and I went to your church, and again, to be that size, and I was able to count maybe 9 black people total, and that 3 out of the 9 were me, you, and your sister. So that was a big shocker to me. I didn't understand how you were able to understand about the culture and understand about your personal history, or that just black history as a whole, if you didn't have it around you,
Yeah. So how often would you say the topic of adoption comes up in our relationship?
Now, never. I don't say never, because if we talked about it early on, especially before we had our son. We actually talked about possibly adopting, and then after 2014, the subject came up again, but it kind of faded off. But as far as like the adoption stuff go, it was more like when we deal with your family in Haiti, or just that. It typically, how do I express it? Typically, when we are talking about Haiti or events in Haiti, a lot of times we'll talk about adoption then, but for the most part, it's very, very rare that we just sit up and have a conversation about adoption.
Okay. Now, earlier you said something about like the culture and identity. What do you think I, as an interracial adoptee, needed to be more aware of what is considered like the Black culture?
But see, that's a tough one, because I know that, like, I don't want to ever say that you were not Black. You didn't. It's just I think that some of the sayings, like not some one example, like excuse me for all the and but I remember we went to a meeting with some of your friends, and one of them put a pothole on your head and used the term "Aunt your mama," and I got heated. I got flaming hot, but you just kind of let it go, and I'm like, no, that's some racist stuff, and you're like, no, but you didn't understand that that was a to me and the way I grew up, that was a very bad thing to call somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then to when it comes to like the hair and stuff, I remember when I first came to Florida. It may not have been the first time I was in Florida, but one of your roommates got on me, and I'll never forget the way she came out. You know, full Jamaican accent. Um, Derek, you can't let her come out the house like this. You have to make sure that her hair is done. Make sure that she understands. This is how you have to take care of your hair. And I know that when I met you, you were doing your own hair, and it looked great. It was straightened out. Sometimes you do the little curly thing. Sometimes it was fully straight, but it was nice. But then there were days when I don't want to say that you just rushed out or whatever, but that was not the way I was taught. It was always, girl, if you're finna leave the house, make sure your hair is done type thing.
Good.
It didn't have to be like over the top. It's just, done right or in a presentable manner type thing.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that there was a couple of times when we brought up possibly adopting. Now, can you see yourself adopting a child of a different race?
That's a tough one. I mean, if you had asked me the same question maybe 5, 6 years ago, I would have said no. There's no way. Even though we were living in Florida at the time, where it's very culturally diverse. However, now, and just me changing over the years, and the type of people that I'm around now, I just guess just my attitude. Yeah, I can see it, but and I'm not trying to pick favorites, boy or girl, whatever. But for me, just because I'm a male, my son now, it's easier for me to say I could deal with and be able to appropriately take care of a Caucasian male. Now, being able to take care of a female is a little bit different because, again, you get into the hair, you get into the attitude. The guy, the hair is still going to be a thing, but it's not going to be as big a deal as it is when it comes to the females.
Good. So what do you think is needed in order to parent a child of a different race or ethnicity than yourself?
Definitely checking your ego at the door, checking your attitude at the door, and being able to seek help from people of the same ethnicity as the child itself, and to be able to say, "Hey, I don't know how to do it. Can you please show me?" If you don't, I feel like if I try to say, "Okay, I'm gonna do this, raise this child under the understanding that I have about a culture right now," then either I'm gonna be an embarrassment to that child, or I'm going to make that child dislike me at some point in time because I failed to put them in a proper place, or I failed to do what was necessary for them.
Hey, I want to share with you something that has changed my life. It's more like my therapist. Why is she so important? Well, because I want to win in this life. I want to break through the carousel of stories I've compiled that hold me back, that keep me from expanding into my full potentiality. stories of unworthiness, not enoughness, and even stories of questioning why I am here. I also want to stop dumping my unsorted feelings on the people around me and reacting with the same behavioral patterns that keep me stuck. Conversations with my therapist have made me more confident, clearer in my intention, and more centered in my spirit. That is why I am elated that we are sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can, from wherever you happen to be right now, match with a therapist tailored to your exact needs. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Someone who you can text at any time and schedule online for either a chat, Zoom, or phone call. And if it turns out that your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Visit the link in the show notes, betterhelp.com, when they were young, to get 10% off the first month. You need to click the link in the show notes in order to get the 10% discount. I want to see you win, beloved. Let's do it together. Visit the link, betterhelp.com, when they were young.
And what are some advantages and disadvantages do you think I had as an interracial adoptee?
No, don't get me wrong. Your parents truly do love you. I think that with your dad being of the age that he was, and um, traveling the way he did, he was able to spend a lot of time around other cultures and other ethnicities, and so he was more open minded to try things and be willing to do things. Um, I think that was a big benefit to you. Um, One of the drawbacks, and I'm not trying to beat your mom up in any way. I think that your mom kind of um, struggled with asking for help when it comes to things that she didn't know, and I'm not sure if she's totally comfortable in settings where she's not in the majority. So, and when I say she, I mean being in it, having a white majority or Caucasian majority. So when it comes to asking for help by in a large group of blacks, or not necessarily a large group of blacks, but just to go into a population where she's not comfortable, I don't think she ever really reached that point.
Hmm. Um, that's interesting. You brought both of them up. That's a good observation. What advice would you give to someone who may be dating or married to an interracial adoptee?
uh, uh, be willing to keep an open mind. Be willing to hold your tongue on some things that you may encounter, because there will be times when what they did as a child or as they were growing up that you may not feel is appropriate, or not necessarily appropriate, but um, that you're not totally comfortable with. So you have to keep open mind on the fact that that's the way they were raised, that's the way they were taught. So as long as it's not something that's, I don't want to say something illegal or something that's, you know, totally totally wrong, you have to keep your open mind, because there are times when I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is being said or this is being done. And there are times when I feel like, and both Julia and I um, tend to hold our tongues when it comes to different things, when it comes to family, because I know that we kind of had a little agreement where if it's an issue with my family, I deal with it. If it's an issue with her family, she deal with it, because my family, we don't mind using 4-letter words when it comes to dealing with certain things. And her family is totally different. So it definitely takes uh, a different mindset to hold. I don't know the proper word for it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's, so at some point in our marriage, I had brought up wanting to reunify with my bio family. What were your thoughts about that?
I was all for it. I was
How
excited
come?
because for me, I'm one, and the way I grew up, family is a big thing. My family's close to each other. And you know this, where we don't really go too long without talking to each other. So when the opportunity came to what I guess part of me felt like to make you whole, to make you complete,
Mm-hmm.
I was jumping on that opportunity. Matter of fact, if you remember, I started digging and asking questions, trying to use contacts in Miami to
Mm-hmm.
try to find them, even before you really started digging into it. Um, it's, it was that whole, I want to make my wife complete so that my family as a whole can be complete.
Mm-hmm. Now,
So, and I remember the first time talking to your biological mom, just the excitement, and then you can almost hear the tears flowing from her when she spoke to you. That to me was heartwarming.
mm-hmm. So do you feel like now that I've reunified with a lot of my bio family, um, do you feel like I'm more whole, or I achieved what it is you thought I needed?
Uh, it's a tough one because when we first started making contact, I didn't fully understand what people were saying to me when they say, "Oh, when it comes to," and I'm when it comes to the Haitian population or people that's from the island, sometimes they look at you as, and please, Haitian family, please forgive me. Sometimes they look at you as being like a piggy bank. So I didn't really understand some of the stuff that came with it, and so it was difficult at first because a lot of times it was, oh, we need this, or can you help with that? And I started realizing, okay, she she made contact with her bio mom. She's happy with that part, but at the same time, there are other things that were coming to light or coming up that created a hardship, or not a hardship, but a burden on your heart, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was difficult because now, even though I felt like you found your you found your family, but that family has started creating a burden on your heart, and not something that you couldn't deal with, but there were times when I knew that it kind of hurt, having to say no, or having to deal with, being asked about this or being asked about that.
Mm-hmm. So then, as a spouse, how can somebody else support their partner when they're going through that unification process?
Uh, Truthfully, just, I don't want to say keep your mouth closed, but instead of trying to solve the problem all the time, sometimes you just gotta let the person go through it and just be there for them, and
Mm-hmm.
not not try to be Superman or Superwoman. Just, be the ear, be a shoulder, and let them work through it. Because sometimes you'll try to do too much, and I'm definitely one who try to do too much. I know me. I'm always that guy that's trying to fix the problem, and sometimes I made it worse by trying to fix it. So I've learned over time that it's better for me to just step back and allow you to deal with whatever it is. And if you need a shoulder to cry on, and shoulder to lean on, or just somebody to listen, sometimes it's better for me just to do that instead of trying to be the fixer.
Great advice and a lot of self awareness. Way to go. I wonder if you're married to a therapist.
I, I believe so. Sometimes I'm not sure.
um, so So, where in your life do you think you need to apply courage just as a person?
I, this is a tough question because I don't look at it as applying courage. I'm a 41-year-old black male growing up in the United States. I grew up in the South. Um, 19 years military service. Now I have an 8-year-old young man who I'm trying to help make help raise to become the best man he can be. So in a time with all this stuff going on, there are times when I'm hesitant about doing some, or just because I don't want to deal with the social outcome, social whatever. However, I know that I have to deal with it. I have to face it, just because if I don't deal with it, and show him that, hey, it can be done, it's something that you don't have to be scared of, then I feel like I'm a failure on that part. However, just by showing him and doing it and showing him, he gets the courage to do it. He faces his fear, and that, to me, I guess you would say, is the courage that I see.
That's nice, nicely said. Now, there's something you've mentioned a couple of times. So when you started that whole conversation, you brought up the fact that you're a black man. So how do you think race applies with interracial adoptees?
That's the interracial adoptees and the racism um, is a tough one, especially like in a year like this. Uh, like this past election has been a rough period around in this house, um, and just all throughout the United States. So I know at one point, um, you being raised under one belief, and then to over time to develop your own mindset and to go against what your parents kind of expected from you, that created an issue. And some of the ways that they were trying to fix the problem actually seemed more racist than um, helpful, I should say. But as far as the race stuff go, it's definitely one where all parties involved have to be mindful of the things they say, the mindful of the things they do. Um, I I know that I changed the music I listen to. Um, I don't necessarily listen to certain radio stations or watch certain movies and stuff, just because of the race that's involved in it. Um, and it takes a lot for me to necessarily sit up and watch some of the stuff that like your parents watch. Just, and it's not that they watch racist stuff. It's just it's pretty much a vanilla. I don't know if that's the right term, but it's pretty much Caucasian based shows, and I'm not accustomed to that. If it's a show, if I'm watching a show, for example, a lot of times it's either a black cast or the majority of the cast is black. It's rarely all white, and that's pretty much, to me, what I see them watch a lot. And so it takes an adjustment period. And I know this may not be the answer that you're looking for, but it can be difficult sometimes because to give an example, I think I asked you once before, had you ever seen the movie Roots? And you said no at that time. I'm not sure if you still, to this point, if you've seen it. But to me, I felt like that was something that should have been shown to you as a kid. Um, and like you face a lot of struggles as a black woman that your parents can't understand. And sometimes I feel like they don't want to try to understand them. But again, that's just me.
Here are my reflections. 1. Adoption affects all relationships, which includes relationships with the spouse, colleagues, and friends. They may need time to adjust to your story. I know a lot of this work is centered on self, but be aware, my friends, that there are people around you who are affected by this indirectly, and they need grace as well. 2. Checking your ego at the door is a must with adoption. Be able to ask for help, and that's for both adoptive parents and adoptees. I'm supplying a plethora of educative resources. At this point, there is no excuse. Let's get to work. 3. If the truth hurts your feelings, maybe it's time you examine yourself. I know this podcast serves up some hard truths, but it's for the greater health. I hear a lot of adoptees hiding their true feelings because they are afraid of the backlash from their adoptive parents. Why are people afraid of their parents? And they genuinely are. There's guilting, manipulating, or threats of not loving them anymore. These are stories I hear all the time. Honestly, if you're a parent and you're listening to this, you're probably not one of those parents. So thank you. But all the same, why can't adoptees say how they feel freely? Because it is their right. That's the bigger question, my friends. Okay, that was wonderful. A wholehearted thank you to Derek and Juliana for joining us today. My friends, you know you can reach me at Young Adoptee on Instagram and get those wonderful resources I talked about earlier from my website at laniceantoincelli.com. Another beautiful episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest today. If you liked this episode, the best way to support me and this work is to write an iTunes review, a 5-star review. This helps us reach the top of searches and helps more people to find us. And if you personally want to connect, please reach out on Instagram or Facebook. And I have some great resource material on my website at laniceantoincelli.com. So go on over there too. Until next we meet, go gently and have courage, my love.